Hey, so welcome back to the podcast, The Insecure Overachiever, here with your host, Jason Suarez. And today I have my guest, Ulian.
Hello.
How are you doing today, Ulian?
I'm all right. Thanks for having me.
Can you tell the audience a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, sure. So my name is Ulian Goga. I am a physiologist for a Premier League team in Azerbaijan. I work in football. I've been working in football for about 10 years. And I think I'm also your friend.
Yeah, for sure.
Which is what brings me here today. You know, it's I had some time to spend in Portugal during the pause for the national teams, and here I am meeting you today, I guess.
Yeah, that's great. Normally we do the podcast somewhere else, so
Right.
Unfortunately we didn't get that today because it's not like free. But I'm really happy that we get at least to have this conversation and it being recorded and then like people being able to listen to it. Yeah. So people are going to be like, well, what are you doing in Azerbaijan? And what's it like coaching with or, coaching a first division team there?
Yeah, it was pretty surreal actually. The way they started the whole opportunity that I got, because the whole thing happened within about a week, 10 days.
Mm-hmm.
But that's how things are in football. Basically, you have to have your luggage ready the whole time. I'm sure you have heard that expression many times. I'm not the first one who's saying it, but it's definitely true.
Yeah.
So we know each other from working in the same place in a club called Estoril Praia, which some people might know, some people not.
First division club in Portugal. So.
There you go.
Hey, easy research.
That's right.
Yeah.
But it was my second year there, and I was at the same time looking to get further my career. I had just finished a master's degree in football, and I was looking for the next opportunity, and this one came literally out of nowhere. A staff member of the team in Azerbaijan knew me personally from working in Estoril Praia, so they kind of invited me to at least have a conversation with the head coach first, and then that went well. And 2 weeks later, I found myself in Baku, and obviously I expected a big change. I did not know anything about Azerbaijan prior to going there. I only knew that the league was ranked decently among European leagues. You know, it's like in the middle of the table from every UEFA league out there. So I expected a decent level of football, which I come to find a decent level of football. It didn't like lower or higher my expectations when I got there. But the main thing, I guess, is the cultural difference coming from Portugal. Going to Portugal, which is probably like, I don't know, 100% Catholic or at least 90% Catholic country, going to a 90% Muslim country, which makes a big difference. You know, it's not just about religion. It has nothing to do with religion, but it's about the customs. It's about the way they see life. It's about the way they see football. It's about the way they see everything. So that was the biggest adjustment, but I'm still adjusting. You know, I've only been there since July. Pretty new to me still.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy.
Yeah.
Actually, I don't know why, but since we started off on conversations,
I'm
comfortable talking about it. So I was like, what was Ulian's first impression
of Azerbaijan?
Of me.
Of you.
And then I wanted to talk about my first impression of you.
Yeah. It was, I remember it. It was a very vivid experience.
I'm trying to remember, what was the first time we talked? Was it the time I went to the gym facility to meet you? After training? What was the first time?
No, I remember it.
Okay.
Because it was a very vivid experience. I don't know, it's one of those things that you meet someone and you're like, well, that's a different guy. Okay. You know, a different kind of person, you know? And I was in the material room preparing the material for the training session. And then you asked me, like if I had seen Alex, which is...
yes. Okay.
People don't need to know who that is, but it's someone who works there. But I heard you said that in Portuguese, and I heard an accent that I was like, where is that from? That was the first thing. Second thing, you didn't look Portuguese at all, even though you have Portuguese roots, but you did not look it. So I'm like, where is this guy from?
Yeah.
And I replied to you, and then for some reason, I don't know, like I asked you in English, like what's your name? Who are you from? Because I heard an accent, and then you said, and you spoke perfect American, and I was like, wait a second.
Yeah.
I thought I was the only American, you know, in Estoril, but apparently not. And that's how we strike a conversation. And I saw you work with the goalkeepers at your team, training them, and then we just started talking. And then we were talking about the possibility. Furthermore, we were talking about the possibility of next year's. What were your plans for next year? If you wanted to like stay at the club, or if you wanted to stay as an assistant. I was looking for people to be like my assistants, because I was gonna have I was gonna be a head coach for a team. So that's how we met. I don't know if you remember that, but
I think I remember it, but I didn't remember that being the first time.
The second time was at the gym.
The second time was at the gym.
Yes.
I think then I was like, I want to have this conversation. So that was interesting.
Yeah.
I remember being, cause actually you had quite a high like introduction. Funny enough from Alex, because, and now things are a bit confused. So I'm going to be honest. I don't remember if it was after that conversation that we had in the material room that I asked him about you. I was like, where's this guy from? Like, he's obviously not Portuguese either. Blah, blah, blah. Or if I knew before and that conversation happened after, I think. One of the things was that I knew from other people that you were very good at what you did. And so I was like, what is he good at?
Yeah.
Like, I want to know people who are good at things, you know, that's kind of the point of the podcast. Like, I want to learn from us. So like, okay, this guy's good, especially at physical training. And people were like, he's really good. And so like, okay, first of all, what is he doing in Estilo Praia? And then like, so can I talk to him? So that was kind of the reason. I was like, okay, this guy's from the States, and you'd worked in youth teams in the US. Anywhere else, but
no, just the US. Yeah,
US, Portugal, nothing?
Portugal was the second country that I worked at.
And then now Azerbaijan.
Yeah.
Okay. So I was like, okay, I want to see what this guy's about. Obviously, my ideas of going to the US and things like that.
Yeah.
No,
I was laughing prior when you were saying that, only because people say he's good, but like I'm like I just paid attention in class when it came to like that portion. Well, I mean, you've been to the same. Funny enough, we've had a very similar course in life, like going to the same university, you know, all that stuff, and you know the same professors that I know. Like you've been taught by the same professors that I've been taught. Yeah, most of them. Exactly. So the only thing that I think makes me good is the fact that I just paid attention to those classes. Most people, especially in football, especially in Portugal, I would say, since it's like a huge market for coaches. There are coaches left, right, and center coming in. It's a football country. It produces coaches all the time. But most coaches, you come to find out, they're, for some reason, I don't know why, but they, at least this has been my experience, they're not really interested in the physical side. They understand it, they want to understand it, but they don't really want to go a little bit deeper in it. But I don't know. I've always been fascinated with it, like how the body moves or how the body works, and what is something efficient for you, what is something not efficient for you, because that down the line, I mean, any sport, not just football, down the line is gonna affect you somehow. Either it's gonna affect you for the good or it's gonna affect you for the bad. So that's why I always thought that that the physical part of football, or any sport really, it is also very important, not just the tactical side or the physical side or the psychological side or the technical side, whatever, you know. That part of the physical side is also very important in my opinion. So that's I guess that's how I became good at it, because I saw the importance of it.
Okay, so I think we could dive into the specialization of like football and coaches and all that stuff, but I didn't want to get there yet. Sure. I think I wanted to ask you a little bit about your roots and like how that process of becoming a coach was. Yeah. We had obviously conversations about this, but like, what were the teams that you previously coached? What was your experience with them? Did that have any influence in you, for example, choosing physical performance over other specialities like sports analysis or anything like that? Yeah. So if you could dive into that for me, I'd love that.
Sure. Well, first of all, you know, there was a period in my life that I actually did not know what I was going to do with my life. So I think it has become kind of normal. It's kind of been normalized nowadays, but it definitely happened for me from 19 to like 22 years old. I had no idea what I was going to be doing in my life. And at 22, at 21 years old, around that time, I met someone. I was working in a restaurant in New York. I grew up in New York City, and I met someone there who became my friend later on, and he was a coach. He was a football coach, and we would always have conversation about football all the time. And funny enough, one day he was like, "Why don't you just get into like football coaching? Because you have some decent ideas about it, and you have some decent knowledge about it." And I was trying out anything just to like see if I would like it or see if I would find myself in it, So I was like, why not? I'll give that a shot as well. At that time, to become a coach in the US, you had to have a coaching license. And at 22 years old, I signed up for my first coaching license, I remember, and I got it. And then that summer, I turned 23 and I had my first football job, which, funny enough, this guy who I met at the restaurant was working there, and he helped me out to put in a good word for me to get that job. That's how it started. I started with youth teams. I started with under sevens, which is coaches, at least when they get together, I think they call that the trenches. At least that's how they call it in the US, because you deal with kids who, some of them, it's actually funny. Some of them don't even know how to handle a ball. Forget about, do anything with it. But it's the whole idea of a ball, of moving a sphere in a ground. It's a very foreign kind of thing to do. So you have to teach them how to handle it. And based on their age and based on their mental ability, you cannot just coach them the same way that you'd coach an adult. You have to talk to them in their language. So coaching was fascinating to me, and this is why I guess it fascinated me since the beginning, because it forced me, I didn't see it as forcing, but it made me speak to people in different ways. It made me like create bonds with people, in this case players, based on their basically based on their age, based on their sex, based on their like background and everything. So you had to speak to people in their way, and you had to get to know people, which is something that I'm always fascinated about. I like people. I love getting to know people. I love meeting people. I'm very social. So that brought it out in coaching. That thing, if you had it would make you good. Decently good. So the relationships that you create with your players are probably one of the most important things, I would say, in football. So that's how I started. I started a very local club in Manhattan, and after that I was still going to college, and I was finishing college at that time. So I was able to get a job at the women's football team in my college. So I was a first assistant there, and that was City College of New York. And then after that, I got to another club, to a better club. And then first time that I started as a physical coach was at another college. College football in America is pretty big. I think, it still is, based on their division. But, back in the day, I would say now, because it's been 10 years, that I've been coaching, it was definitely huge. So I was at a men's program at John Jay College of Criminal Justice. And
what state is that?
That is in New York, New York City. Yeah, it's one of the no problem. It is probably the leading college when it comes to criminology and forensics, and if you basically want to go into the law enforcement route in your life, it's the place to be. So we'd have. Yeah, we would have very specific kind of guys who would be at the team, like they would love to work out because like cops and, not to give like the stereotype, but like they would be very fit physically, not the most technical players, but they would be very, very fit physically and everything like that. So that was the first gig that I had as a physical coach. And then from there, I've had it plenty of times. I've played that role many times ever since, but that was the first time that it started like that.
Interesting career progression. What was your mind like? Where was your head at when you were going through that? I know that, for example, one of the things I asked you when we had a conversation was like, well, how do I move up levels? How do I change clubs? Like that kind of thing.
Yeah.
How did that work for you? I was also curious, like, what you felt when, for example, you went from, I'm guessing when you said the trenches and the U7s, it was male.
Yeah,
From
yeah.
like male
but
to
but it was
female
co-ed
to
actually.
male.
It was co-ed, which is even more trenches because
Okay.
in the same
it's
team,
both.
yeah,
Okay.
in the same team you'd have a 6-year-old boy and a 6-year-old girl, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and so, you cannot really talk to them the same way.
But that's my question. Like, for example, here, like, it's very easy to get stuck in the femenina, which is
The
female
female
teams,
yeah,
and then
yes.
like male teams will not want to show interest. Like, oh, they
Yeah.
worked with like U17 females,
Yeah,
but that's
yeah,
not
yeah,
the
yeah.
same level, so you wouldn't get an invite. So
Yeah.
I was curious if you were conscious of that. Maybe that doesn't exist in the US, which I would guess it exists less because treatment for both sexes there in terms of sport is much better than around the world.
Yeah.
If you understand what I'm getting at, like, what was your consciousness when it came to career path, and what kind of advice would you have for like younger coaches that are like, oh, I'm scared of this decision or that decision?
Yeah.
Could you take me through that?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. No, first of all, it's a great question. Not a question that gets asked a lot, but I've definitely thought about it. So first of all, yes, you're right. In the US, it was less of a difference between the female and the male football at that time. Now it's the gap has increased a little bit, and you can definitely see it. But female football back in the day was a very high, really high level. I mean, they were world champions and back to back, so that just brought a lot of attention to the team. Generally, they were very, very good. Okay, so the gap was not that big, but at the same time, you kind of get branded, this is what I give as an example or as an advice, really, like to people who want to get into football. It's kind of like being an actor almost, because when you play a villain too much, you kind of like get casted for that villain role in the next movie, and it's kind of almost the same thing in football. Like if you work too much in female football, you're most likely your next job, or whoever is asking, like looking at you from afar, or whoever is like getting to know you or offering you a job for the next gig that you're gonna have, it's probably most likely gonna be in female football. So, and then there's nothing wrong with that. I'm just saying that if you want to experience both, I suggest people to do that early in their career when they don't have like, they haven't really set a foot in a base in what they do. So if they do that early and find out what they like, and if they like something more than the other, then just do that early so they have a better idea. I did that, not that I was thinking about it as I was doing it. I didn't have the knowledge to do that way, but that's how it happened for me, because I coached the female team, and I also had an academy female team, which is actually very successful. We even went to England. I remember in 2018 we went to England with this team, and we played some international friendlies with some of the best academies in England. I mean, we played at Man City, we played Arsenal, we played some local teams as well, and we did pretty decently. The girls were doing very well. This was back then. Now, again,
back then as in what year?
2018.
Okay.
So that's what, 7 years ago. That's some time.
I'm curious.
Yeah.
Just a random question.
Yeah.
You said the gap between the female and the male level in the US increased.
Yes.
Since then, which is weird, because I would think it's the opposite, because I would think there's a lot more investment in the female side now after, for example, the wins.
Yeah.
And recently they also won like the World Cup.
Well, that's been some time since they won the World Cup.
But it wasn't 7 years ago, or was it?
It was 7 years ago.
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
Crazy. Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm curious about that, because when you said that, I was like, wait, I thought you would say the opposite.
Yeah, no, so...
Can you just touch on that quickly?
Yeah, sure. No. So what I meant to say is back in the day, at least when it came to the entertainment, the female football was ahead of the male football in America.
Wow. Okay.
Yes, because especially the national teams. I mean, the national team of men went through a period. There was kind of a drought. Like people didn't really support it as much as they supported the women, or at least they would not talk about it as much as they talked about it for the women's team. And rightfully so, because they were being much more successful. So success brings attention, brings even more success. But I guess with the talent that is being developed now in the US, specifically like young male talent playing in Europe, playing in some of the biggest clubs in Europe, the attention is coming back now to men. And matter of fact, I think the attention is a little bit more towards the men's football than the women's football. So that's why I'm saying this. They're creating a big, not a big, but a bit of a gap now. Before it was level, and I would say female football was ahead of male football. That, at least that's how I used to see it. And most people that I knew of, that's how they used to see it anyway. Like, you would have people actually naming you the starting 11 of the female national team, but they wouldn't name the starting 11 of the male national team. So that was pretty common actually back then. Now it's kind of the opposite. And that's how I see, like success basically. Because when people talk more about who like one team than the other, then I guess that team has been a bit more successful.
Okay, fascinating. So your journey started there. You came to Portugal. Now you're in the Middle East, basically.
Yeah, almost.
Azerbaijan.
Yeah.
And I just had this question popped into my head. Like, what did you ever think that would happen? Like, did you ever think like, I don't remember when your coaching story ended in the US.
Yeah.
But like, if in 1 year or 2 years before that happened, that change happened to Portugal in the first place. If you thought like, yeah, one day I would go to Portugal and work 2 years. How many years did you?
I worked in Portugal three
years, and then now be in the first division of Azerbaijan.
Yeah.
Like, did you? I don't know. What was your head?
Man, again, good question. No, definitely not. Especially when I was starting out, I did not think that I was going to go abroad and coach there. First of all, why I went abroad, why I went to Portugal is also kind of, it's also a story in its own, because it came as well out of nowhere. I was at a point in my career, it had been like 3-4 years in my career, and I was pretty decent at what I was doing, but I was hitting a plateau. Like, I was hitting a plateau in my learning, in coaching, and I was feeling it myself. Like, it was not really showing in my sessions, it was not really showing in professionally in what I was doing. I was still like climbing the ladder, as they say, but like I could feel it, I could sense in myself that I was hitting a plateau in my learning. So I was looking to like, just trying to get into something else that would, I guess, get me to the next level. And I was looking to get into a university, do a master's degree. The only problem was the only masters that I could find that was related to football at that time, because now they have it, but at that time was masters in sports management, which again, it's something that is related to football, but it is not the same thing, exactly, because you know about it and I know about it now. So funny enough is I was very close to getting to a university when it came to sports management, and I was applying. I was through the application process. I was almost guaranteed to get in, and the opportunity to go to Portugal just came out of nowhere in August of 2019. August 2019. We met someone at the coaching staff of this John Jay University who came in and joined us that year, and he had come from Portugal, and he had done a post-graduation at the University of Lisbon. And so we started talking about it, and he told me more about it, and I was like, I would love to actually apply for that. I was applying for schools in the US, but I was like, it's August, they're starting in September, so I'm just going to apply next year. He's like, just send an email, right? Let's see. So I started just like that. I sent an email, they replied back, and they were like, well, listen, if you have everything ready, just send it to us anyway. So I sent it to them, and like 3 days later, they set up an interview online. And we have an interview, and they're like, well, would you actually want to join the program this year? So I had already signed the contract for next year at the work that I was doing. I was completely sure that I was going to continue in the US,
Right.
And I got this opportunity to go to Portugal. And it would take me completely out of my comfort zone. And at the same time, I had just had surgery on my knee. I had a knee injury, a pretty bad one, playing football. So So I had just come out of a surgery like a month prior to that, and here I was being offered to go there and study, and I said yes. I was like, I would love to. So I came to Portugal in September, last day of August actually, of 2019, and stayed one semester, and then after that, at the same time, got an internship at Estoril Praia under 23, which was the first year of Liga Revelação, which they started. It's like now it's professional. It's considered professional football. Right. So that's how it started. It was again. You never know where is going to be your next opportunity, and definitely that's been my path so far in football.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So now you're in Azerbaijan.
Now in Azerbaijan.
At a professional level.
Yes.
What's that like?
It is very satisfying. It is very satisfying when you think about it. It is hard work, of course. You have to give 100% to the players. They're professional. It says it in the name, obviously, but you have to be more professional. So
what do you mean more professional?
You have to match their energy. You have to match their expectations, and you have to be able to demand from them. And if you slip a little bit, they can sense it. They're like shark in water, and if they sense a little bit of blood, they're going to come attack you for it, which is great. I love that because it keeps me on my toes. And so you have to give them what they want. You have to give them. I'm talking about my work now specifically because I take care of the physical side at the team. So you have to know them individually first. You have to know what is something that they do a lot, and you don't have to like be on top of them. So you make sure that they actually execute that thing, and you have to make sure it's something they need to do, but they're not really fun. They're not really fond of doing that. So you have to kind of like be on top of them and make sure they actually do that thing.
Right.
So it's kind of like based on players. Like you cannot treat the same way you treat one player. You cannot treat the other one. But it's very satisfying. It's very satisfying at the end because when you do the work and you see, especially if you see like development, and if you see development without minimizing injury, which is something that is big in football, that's, I guess, to me that's very satisfactory. So that's been the way I see it so far. I love it. I love being in the professional level. I don't think I can go back.
You can't go back, right?
Yeah.
I guess then your whole day, your kind of like whole life is based around that, which is actually a dream probably for a lot of coaches, because a lot of coaches do it as a side hustle. At least here, I think in the States, it's at least pays well enough to like, okay, like you can work one team or maybe a second team and you're perfectly okay. Here it's like you sometimes even work a day job and you go coach at night. Yeah. And people would be like, it's amazing that you get to spend a full day focusing on that. So I was wondering if you'd share with the audience a little bit like what your life looks like working at the professional level and what that implies.
Yeah, no, I definitely. But I just want to touch a little bit on what you said, because it was my first cultural shock when I came from the US, because yes, it's true. I was living or making a living coaching in the US, having two teams, regular two academy teams and a seasonal team, which is the college team, as an assistant there. Just with those three teams. And when I say seasonal team, it's a team that doesn't go the whole year, like from August to June, for example. Just with those 2-3 teams, I could make a living comfortably in the US. I came in Portugal, you couldn't, you definitely couldn't. So that was my first thing. But anyway, so my life now in Azerbaijan obviously revolves around the club, revolves around training and the players. We have morning training, which is great because they're professional. They don't have to do anything else, just football. They don't go to school. Nice. They don't have to go to school. They don't have to do any other job, and nobody else does anything else for a living besides football. So we start our day early in the morning, and we have breakfast with the staff or sometimes with the players, and then we go to training sessions. We have a training center, which is in the Olympic Stadium of Baku, which is pretty nice. We have natural grass pitch. We have medical posts there. We have dressing room for players, dressing room for us. We have masseuses for the players to get treated if they need to. We have everything that we need. We have it there just to help us with getting success. And success in professional football is winning, or winning as many points as possible.
One thing,
So so we just have we have to adapt. At least I have to adapt my life that way, where now, success, it actually is making points, as many points as possible, and doing as well as we can. So the day, as I said, starts early in the morning. We have the training session, and then after that, in the afternoon, we have lunch after the training session, and then after that, coaching staff gets together. We plan the session for the next day. And then we go and execute it the next day. We do have some time off, maybe 3 hours off the day or something like that, if you want to go for a walk or you want to do like your daily things. But you kind of have to be like, very systematic in the things that you do. It turns out to be kind of automatic, the thing. So every day, also depending on your microcycle. Microcycle is
I was just about to ask about that. Like getting specific, as we've both studied this, so it's interesting. I have a chance to speak to somebody in the first division. What is your microcycle like?
Yeah.
How does it change? What does it change in function of?
Yeah.
Could you just
tell me
a little bit about that?
So a microcycle is basically the planning that you have of your week. So there's microcycles, mesocycles, and then macrocycles in football. A macrocycle is the overlook plan of what are you going to do for the year, what are you going to coach, what is your calendar, basically. And a mesocycle is what are you going to do in a month, and a microcycle is what are you going to do in a week, based on the games and based on your training sessions. So it is, as we said, is based on the games. So if you have a game, you have a week with one game.
Yeah.
Sometimes you have a week with two games. For example, prior to having these days off now, we had in 8 days we had 3 games. So that's it's not a microcycle because usually it's 7 days, right? But like in 8 days we had 3 games. So that's very extended. So that week the microcycle was definitely not the same. And what is normally our microcycle based off, as I said, is, let's say you play the game on the weekend. Let's just say for the sake of it, you play the game on Sunday. So Monday of the next game, or Monday of that week, for example, we have match day plus 1, okay, which is match day plus 1 and match day plus 2 are usually where the recovery sessions happen. We, in our team, have our recovery session in the second day, and then on the first day after the game, and the second day we have off. Some teams do it where they have off on the first day after the game. Some teams do it on the second day. There's a lot of research on that. If you want to get into it, we can. But that's how it happens. And then they have 4 days to prepare the game, 4 or 5 days to prepare the game. And those days are specific in the sense that they differ from each other, but they differ based on, in my case, in the work that I do, based on the physical aspect that you're trying to work on the day, because you cannot work on the same physical aspect on every day because you're not giving the body or the muscles in this case enough time to rest. And rest basically is the basis of performance. It's the most important thing for making muscles or making the body grow or making the body adapt to high intensity levels of football in this case, or exercise. So and then usually what happens is, if we play at home, we don't go anywhere, but if you play outside, if you play, let's say, further away, you take the bus. You usually go a day prior, take the bus as a team. You stay together in a hotel, and you visit the pitch if you can, like do a short session just to get to know, be familiar with the pitch the day before the game. Usually that's what happens. Or the day, let's say the game is late at night, early that day, for example, you just have set pieces in the pitch just to get to know, be familiar with the pitch. If it's a pitch that you've never played before, for example. And
so then, really quick, Could you just take me through like an ideal microcycle? Let's say normal game at home Sunday. What would be the ideal microcycle?
So it's not. I mean, absolutely. This is what I'm having a problem with the word ideal. You know.
Okay, not ideal. Let's say a frequent one that would be normal for you guys.
Yeah. So
the go-to, the standard.
I forgot to mention, because again, we have to speak about this for people who probably are not in the world.
Speak about it to me.
Okay.
Like you were speaking it to me.
Okay, so but you also have to keep in mind where you're coming from the last game. You understand what I'm saying?
Because so let's say Sunday game.
Yes.
So +1, +2, whatever you like.
Right. So let's say you played a game at home last Sunday, or which was, let's say, the day before, which was yesterday. We're on Monday right now, and on Sunday we have another game, right?
Your planning happens Monday or Sunday night? I know different teams do differently.
Yeah, so the planning happens, well, technically our planning already has happened.
Fair.
But we start thinking about the details Sunday night after we play the game. So on Monday, we already know what is going to happen for the whole week.
Okay.
Monday, usually we do our recovery session. We then divide the players there in players who played more minutes and players who had less minutes. The players who had more minutes, they have what is called a recovery session. They have a low intensity sort of exercises and things that, exercises that help them kind of speed up the rate of recovery. Also, we aid the recovery with ice baths, cryotherapy, right?
Yeah.
Sauna after games they've been very resultful for us. Like, it's also part of the culture. They love having sauna in Azerbaijan. So it helps us at least to direct them to have those things that they want to have normally, but have them in the day that makes much more sense physically to have them. For example, in recovery sessions, they have sauna, they have ice baths after that, like hot and cold to contraction of the muscles actually helps out with recovery.
Yeah.
So for the players who actually did not play a lot, now they have to compensate, and that's what we call the compensation session. They have to run a certain amount of time and meters, and they have to do it at a certain pace. And if the game was intense, then we also have some exercises that they have to kind of mirror what their colleagues did based on the position that they play on the field. Let's say a center back, doesn't run the same amount, the same distance than a winger or a fullback, for example. So you cannot make on the recovery day or on the compensation day, you cannot make a center back who did not play the game run the same amount of meters that fullback played, because they're going to run much more. Yeah. Normally, that's how it happens.
Yeah.
So you divide it. You divide the work based on their positions. You divide the work based on how much they played and if they didn't play at all. So you have to be very mindful about how you plan that, and that's been my job in those days. Probably the most stressful. I love it, but it's the most intricate, detail-oriented part of the work that we have to do. And at the same time, you have to keep in mind that you cannot cause injury, but you're also doing this because you want to level as much as possible the internal load of the players. Because if you have in youth football, you usually use all your players because you want them to develop. And if you're not doing anything when it comes to performance, and nobody's asking you to win games, and there's no reason for you not to play your team or not to give chances to other players. But you have some players, that's the reality of football, you have some players that don't get much minutes. But you also don't want them to lower their physical capabilities. And if they don't play games, they're going to lower their physical capabilities. So you have to give them the opportunity to train the same way, or at least as close to as possible as their colleagues did the game prior. So that's basically the idea of a recovery or a compensation day in football. And the day after that is rest.
Yes. And then the day after that is rest.
Yes.
I just wanted you to give me a quick 1 minute week plan session, 10 o'clock recovery in the morning, 2 o'clock in the afternoon, drill, ... dinner together, just really quick. You can even just be 1 minute, 2 minute, what we do at the FMH, the school, just making the microcycle on the thing, like session. If you could just give that to me, I'd just be really curious.
Yeah. So recovery, it's a little bit late. So the next day after the game, usually because we travel Monday. So let's say we played on Sunday and we travel back to base, back to where we live. We have a team bus obviously, who takes us. Usually that trip is like 3-4 hours long. Let's say we played outside, right? Or we played somewhere else. But even if we played at home, we didn't have to travel much. Then usually we train at 10:30 in the morning. The recovery session for the next day, it's 11 usually, just to give the players just half an hour extra just to sleep a little bit more, because no matter how much we train them and no matter how intense the training sessions are, the game is always going to be the most intense one. So you're going to have to give them a little bit more rest that day. So that's how we do it. Let's say if we train normally at 10:30 in the morning, our recovery session starts at 11. Okay? And that's where the players now already know like who's going to be doing recovery, who's going to be doing compensation. I am always in touch with them. They know if they played a certain amount of minutes, what they're going to do. So we divide the team, we divide the players. I already have specific exercises for each player, each position, what they're going to do. We start usually with a gym session that day. Again, 11, and then the players who played more and are physically tired, as I said, they have those recovery methods and recovery things that we use, like cryotherapy, as I said, or sauna or other things. Sometimes they even swim, and it's great, just moving underwater. So that's when the recovery session usually lasts about an hour and a half altogether. The next day is off. Usually we opted giving 48 hours off, just because a lot of research says that 48 hours after the game is where your muscles are usually more sore and tired. So we opted to give that to players the day off. The next day, which is that's going to be Wednesday, is when we come back from the day off. Training as normal, 10:30. We report at the base at the training facility at 9:45. Bus takes us there. Players have like 45 minutes, 40 minutes, let's say, to get ready. They have, some of them want to have a massage before, some of them have a routine before, some of them want to hit the gym before. We have weights and we have some things so they can work out, like have some minimal workout before they go into the session. Some of them want to work, for example, do some isometric training on their own, want to do something that is, for example, they want to work with elastic bands, or they want to work something in their body, and they're free to do it. Obviously, they speak to me before what they're doing, but so that's the routine, and then we go into the training session. Based on the day that we're working, for example, that training session, the first training session after the day off, usually is not the longest. It's not the longest training session. It is intense, but it's not the longest one. The day after that, which what we call in tactical periodization, what Portuguese people say like dia de resistência, day of resistance, day of stamina, that's usually the longest session that we have. It's longest session also, like it's also the session where we use full pitch normally. And also the I'm guessing it's becoming a bit confusing, and I hope not, but the amount of space that you use at well is very important on what you're trying to work, what specific area of power you're trying to work that day. Is it strength? Is it resistance or endurance? Is it speed? And these usually are the main three things that we work at. So based on the day that based on your plan, for example, that day after, usually it's strength day. So strength day usually doesn't require long distances. So we usually have small distances. So you promote change of direction, which is something that, it touches on the strength day, for example. On endurance day, we have bigger, pitch is bigger, the pitch is bigger, the distances are to run is longer, because you want to promote endurance. And also timing of the session is longer. It simulates the timing of a game. Usually it's 1 hour and a half session normally, so players have to get their endurance that day. And then the speed session, you still give space for them to achieve max speed, and that's also very important. But the session now drops into less time than it was in endurance. And then we have an activation day after that, and after that is the day of the game. So
okay,
that's how it happens.
Amazing.
The timing of the training sessions are the same. The training sessions usually start the same. Every time is the same, except, as I said, if, for example, if we're going away for the game on Sunday, we have a training session. Might be a little bit early, might not. Usually it's not. Okay, so we have a training session at our training facility, and then we go as a team with the bus to where we need to go, and then if the timing doesn't allow that, we have, for example, a training session there later at night, depending on the planning, of course.
Okay, super interesting. I was going to ask you about something that you talked about there a little bit, which is like when you go professional, you focus on performance, winning, of course.
Yeah.
So my question was like, how does the importance of winning and performance-based metrics, for example, impact your interpretation of or your football methodology? Like, how does that change? You go there, it's hit like, look, you got to win points.
Yes.
I know in a very superficial sense, you always pursue performance in your athletes, but you having made that jump, I'm curious, you must know what changed.
Yeah.
And if you could share that a little bit.
Sure. I think like everything else, it starts with philosophy. I think if you're a club and you're employing a coach, you have to make sure that, first of all, they have a philosophy, and obviously every coach that I know of, and I mean everyone, wants to win, and that's why they're in the game. But you have to make sure that they have a philosophy, and you have to make sure that their philosophy is it's adaptable by the first of all by the culture where you're in, and also by the players, if they can actually absorb what the head coach is wanting. Now, a philosophy entails many things. It's not just like the way that a coach sees football. It has to do with training methodology, which is what I'm also more into, right? So, when it comes to training methodology, like you train to you make the training sessions as specific as you can to the roles that the players play in the game, and that to do that you need to have what is called a game model. So the game model, it's specific to a coach. It can be specific to a club. Even clubs sometimes have their game model, and they're set in the way that they want to play, and like you have to adopt. So now the winning mentality, which is what I guess is what you're referring to, comes from, I guess, being systematic and excelling at all these things. You have to give again 100%. You have to reinforce good behavior, or you have to reinforce and positively reinforce things that are happening good at the club, and what makes them good or bad is the way that you see football. So there's not really like, I guess is what I'm trying to say, is that there's not really my way of winning, for example, can be completely different from your way, or it can be completely different from how you see it, the way that you want to win. The whole point is, do you win at the end? And if something it is being successful, and this is something that I've learned, by the way, along the years, because as a young coach, I had my ideas and I was kind of set in my ideas, but I've learned that if something is working, even if it's not 100% like how you want it, don't go in and change that. You try to keep it as much as possible, and you try to fix other things if they need to be fixed. But going back to your question,
I could phrase it better maybe.
Yeah,
which would be, what changes in terms of your mental space, even your physical life or your lifestyle when you put in that position? Because it's very easy, for example, if I coach a team around here or anywhere in the world and at an amateur level, I could be like, well, I want to reach the highest amount of performance I can get with that group. Yeah, I'm sure I would try my best, but maybe on a Monday night I'll go out for drinks. Maybe a Tuesday night I'll sleep a little bit later. Yeah, I'm saying, like, when you're put in that situation, there's no options. Like, you're winning or losing. Yes, it's not like, oh, you lose the game, well, we could do better. Yeah. Let me go. I'm gonna go home, have a nice meal, and watch some Netflix. No, yeah, maybe you're gonna beat yourself up and be like, dude, why did I make that substitution at this time? Yeah. I shouldn't have put this player. I knew his attitude wasn't right. And so what changes for you? You're all of a sudden, you flew out from Portugal, you went to Azerbaijan, and you didn't even have that many days of preparation, if I remember correctly.
No,
it was 3 days away from preseason. You have 3 weeks.
No, we actually had.
I'll ask you about like your relationship with the group of coaches later, but you're put into that. What changes?
Yeah, well, you have to become what you preach. Basically, that's what changes, because I think this is the biggest change, or what is going to distinguish you. And when I say you, me, you, everyone, I think in life, not just in football, is I think most people know what they have to do, but it's very hard doing it.
Yeah.
Okay. So.
Or they're not pressured to do it.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
But when it comes to winning and when it comes to being successful, people smell it. As I said, people, and that's why I love working with them, because they see if you're preaching one thing but you're not really doing it, or you're not really embodying what you're saying, it's going to come off. They're going to smell it off of you. So if they smell it off of you, they're not going to follow you. They're not going to listen to you, because you're not transmitting trust. And the most important thing is you have to transmit trust, and you have to transmit confidence for them to actually go on the pitch and do what you want them to do, or what we need to do as a whole team so we can actually win. That is the biggest change, if you want to call it a change, that has to happen. Fortunately, that's something that I've been interested in, not just when I got in football. It's been something that I've been always interested in, like in life. When you find out and discover something that you want to achieve in life, and you know the path to it, just execute it, and execute it and be genuine about it. So people see you being genuine, and they're gonna follow you. And this has been my experience, at least. Maybe it's too easy to say that, but usually people follow you, and it's easier for them to follow you when you're being more genuine, and when you're actually doing what you're preaching. So that is the first thing that that is probably the hardest thing some people have to do. So
okay, interesting. And then how is it adapting to other coaching staff? People with different mentalities. People with different backgrounds, for example. Yeah. They might like you, they might not like you. I think it was a positive experience in your situation. I don't know. I'd like you to share that. Like what is that like?
Yeah, no, going back, fortunately, actually, we had time to have the whole preseason. We just were there. We went there literally a day before we started work. So we didn't have really time to like meet the facilities or see like everything around. Usually you have like about 3-4 days to like get acquainted with like where you're gonna go, how, like just see the pitch, like start thinking ahead, planning ahead. But we're literally flew in there the night before. The next day we started working. So. But at least fortunately we had a full preseason. Anyway, so adapting myself to the coaching staff. Fortunately, I knew one element of the coaching staff. We both know one element of the coaching staff. So that makes it easier to integrate yourself in the coaching staff. Now, the other thing is, again, you always have to be genuine, not just with the players now, but you also always have to be truthful and genuine, especially with the head coach and with the coaching staff. You have to, there's the biggest fear, I guess, that people have in football and special coaches, and people talk about this a lot, is trust. It's very hard sometimes to trust people, specifically in football, because again, the market is so tight, and not a lot of people are making a decent living in football, so everyone wants to get everyone's position. So it's really hard to trust people. But I've learned, and this has just been my life philosophy, that you cannot achieve something by deceiving people, or if you do that, then it's always going to come back at you. So and first of all, it's not the way that I want to achieve things in life. If I'm going to be low level at something, I'll gladly be at low level at it, but maintaining some sort of dignity, So trust, I guess, is the most important thing. And once you start winning the trust of the head coach, of the other members of the staff, then things become easier. It's easier for them to communicate. They open up, they free themselves, and I guess that's and also speaking the same language helps. The elements of the coaching staff are Portuguese, most of them. Speaking Portuguese helps.
Portuguese, or what about English? Or is that not the general?
No.
Portuguese?
We speak among us. We speak Portuguese.
Okay.
We're lucky enough to have a translator working for us, so they don't have to
Nice.
speak in English. I mean, I speak both English and Portuguese to the players. If a player speaks English, I speak to them in English. They speak Portuguese, I speak to them in Portuguese. So, yeah. But language very important. Not just English, Portuguese, but also like speaking the same language is very important. Like having the same values is very important. But you get to know that, you get to experience that, you get to like become that only when you spend time with them. So when you spend time with them, you have to be, and this is how I work. For example, I'm observant as a person. I see how someone just like sits or talks, or the way they talk, and whatever they talk about, and so I take mental notes, and I try to like understand them as a person without deceiving them, without changing who I am, but understand who they are, and and see where we can potentially crash in the future, or where we actually have like a good something that can bond us together, that brings the whole relationship closer, because it makes things so much easier working in staff that you get along.
I'm gonna ask you a quick question.
Sure.
I just want a yes or no answer.
Okay.
And then I'll follow up with something I want to say, and then I'll ask you the same question again for you to explain.
Okay.
Do you build like a culture there?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Well, I was gonna say, like, I want you to explain that a little bit to me, because one of the things, I mean, we love about sports, we love about success stories. At least for me, like, one thing I think, at least American teams to me seem to do very well.
Yeah.
At least the ones that win big. There's a couple off my head, like the Chiefs,
Yes.
the Warriors. They built famously like culture around
Yes.
not just winning. It wasn't always about winning. Culture in their fundamental
Exactly.
thing. They made videos online. I actually watched a lot of them.
Yeah.
Of their process. They call it the Chiefs Kingdom or the Warriors Ground. There's always a culture to achieving something big.
Yeah.
Maybe your team's not in that position, but that's why I was like, to what level do you think about that on a daily basis, a weekly basis, at a macro level?
Yeah.
And yeah, do you build the culture there, and what does that look like for you?
You must. I think you must, especially in if you want to achieve anything in sports, in football, or anything in really in life. If you're in a position of a leader, you have to build a culture. It's probably the most tasking thing that you have to do. But the good news is, once you build it, it usually goes on by itself. You don't have to like stay behind it after that and make sure you enforce it, because people become what you are and what you want them to become, so you can actually achieve things. But I 100% I agree. You have to build a culture. It's I think it's crucial building a culture, especially with a coach that's coming from outside the culture that you're from. So if you bring a foreign coach to any team, I guess you're gonna have to accept that they're gonna bring a culture that is different from yours. Not just when it comes to like the most, I guess the most easy definition of culture, but also like the culture that has to do with what is being a team to that coach.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously the coaching staff, most of them comes from Portugal, and there's a Portuguese football coach that they're trying to bring at the club that we're at. So what have we done to do that? Player meetings, meeting one-on-one with the players, meeting the whole team, establishing what we're looking to do. Like again, having team meetings where we reinforce ideas, we praise what we consider good behavior and what we actually want to continue in. And also the other thing is we want to limit the bad choices they can actually make. So usually what happens in professional footballs, you have a list of things that you cannot do, and if you do them, you get penalized and sometimes even fined. We actually have a fine list, exactly, right? So players, let's say they come late to the dressing room X amount of minute, it's X amount of salary worth or whatever.
Who determines that? The head coach?
Yeah, the head coach determines
the book,
it.
right?
The head coach determines it. Then we speak with a captain, where they both kind of determine it, and then the captain speaks with the team. We all speak with the team basically, and they sign it, and so everyone is on the same page basically. Yes.
Interesting. Have you read the full book? Because I know they do that. Even Miguel at Seville, I remember them having to write that. I remember being like, oh, that's super interesting.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, because the fines are not just for the players; they're also for the coaching staff. Whoever comes out deviates from the culture is going to be penalized, which is the best way to enforce it, I guess. So yeah.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Quick question here: like, were there any barriers to your adaptation process? And then, what's been like the most tiring / stressful part so far?
Yeah. The biggest barrier is the language. When you don't speak the same language, you kind of result on speaking almost sign language, or you result on focusing so much on the every signal that a player gives you, like facial behavior or facial signals. You're gonna have to like understand to read the player better, since you don't speak the language, and you can just ask obviously the general questions are how you doing, or they think is okay, like you already I already speak it now, like I already can speak that much, but I cannot go into details and ask what's wrong or like what is hurting you the most. I still do that in English, and most of them don't speak great English, so we have very limiting conversations, so you're gonna have to rely on like micro expressions of their face. You're gonna have to rely on like how they usually are, so you have to like have extra focus on them. So you see if there's anything off from their normal behavior, and then where there's anything not from the normal behavior, you really ask them like what's wrong. You can pull them to the side and get a translator. Right. Fortunately, we have that. So that's been the biggest barrier has been the language, because you want to have as much of open communication as possible, so you can actually give them what they need to excel in what they need to do.
Of course.
Yeah.
Awesome. So diving a little bit into something that you suggested, or we kind of touched on before we started this, you wanted to talk about planning versus preparing.
Sure.
What did you mean by that?
Well, I guess not just in football, in life, people usually have a plan. They say plan A, plan B, whatever. But I think, in my opinion, the most important thing beside planning is preparing. And preparing to me involves the whole process of going from plan A to plan B, or if any of the plans is not working at the moment, you have to be prepared of what you're going to do if stuff hits the fan. All right. If anything that you have thought of would happen while you plan something.
What kind of plans are you talking about? For example?
We can talk about game plan, for example.
Okay.
The game plan, like we have a game plan against X team that they're gonna play. We're gonna play on Sunday. All right. And we see that we predicted that team is gonna play a certain way. Coming to the field, they play completely different. So What do you do now? You have to prepare for that as well. You cannot just have a plan and not prepare for it. And I think it's the same thing in life. Like if you want to achieve something in life, okay, great. You want to have a plan. You want to have like bullet points of what you want to do to get there. But you have to prepare to do something that goes a little bit beyond that. Or if things, for example, if the first bullet point is not being hit, you cannot just get stuck on that and then not get to the next thing. You gotta be able to have to hit everything. So preparation comes into question, I think, next, and it's in my opinion, it's the most important thing. Of course, without a plan, you cannot prepare. But if you have just a plan, you also have to be able to prepare. I don't know if I'm making myself clear when it comes to that.
I just want you to. Like that thing, you can't have a plan, or you can't prepare without a plan.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking if that's true or not.
Well, yeah, I would like to know your.
Or why is it not?
Yeah. What do you think about it?
Planning. I feel like you could prepare without a plan.
Prepare what?
Prepare for anything that happens.
But what is that you're going to prepare for if you don't know what you're going to do? And the plan is generally. What the plan is, or what I understand with the idea of the plan is...
The point you were saying is that you prepare so that the plan goes wrong.
Right.
So that means
you
can basically take the plan going wrong as non-existing.
Take the plan going wrong as non-existing? What do you mean by that? Give me like
Which means in that
example.
situation, it's almost as if it doesn't exist because it didn't work.
Right, but you have to. But you
I don't know. I'm touching here. I'm trying to bring it in and out.
No. That's a great point. But the thing is, you know, in this case, in leadership, or if you want to bring people with you to do something, you cannot just take them to the day of that thing is happening without having a plan or without having a general idea of what are we going to do tomorrow. You understand what I'm saying?
But then you're saying the preparation is for a specific thing.
Preparation is for anything.
Because if you say it in a general sense, you don't need a plan. I don't know.
No, I think so. No. I'm not. By the way, I'm not saying that you don't need any of the other. I'm saying that you need both. But I say
can one live independent of the other?
Exactly. But I think most people, and this has just been my point of view, and maybe I'm wrong, but most people.
Can you be planned and not prepared?
Yes, that's what I'm trying to say.
Can you be prepared and not planned?
Can you be prepared and not planned? Yes. I don't think so. I
don't know why this idea is examples coming to my mind. It's like climbing a mountain.
Sure.
You can prepare, let's say it's a snowy mountain, whatever. You can prepare for it and not plan for it. So you say, well, I want to get to the highest point. You prepare for it. You don't have a plan. You go find the highest point.
Right. But
is there a plan there?
Yes. Because the whole idea of you going to the highest point. That is the plan.
Objective.
But that is part of the plan.
We're arguing over semantics.
I think.
Well, I mean, you could also not put a plan. Just say, I'm staying here and just.
Then you're not
and getting warm.
Sure, but then you're not doing anything, right? You're not doing anything. Huh? Yeah,
you can exist. So if a typhoon. I don't know why typhoon came to mind, right? Because I grew up in Macau.
Yeah.
A snowstorm hits you. You're ready.
Right.
You didn't even know that you were ready for it, but you prepared.
You're prepared. But before preparing, you kind of had a plan. You at least, when you prepare, it involves the idea of a plan because you want to have like X, Y, and Z things ready. And that involves having a plan. You understand what I'm saying?
Yes.
You don't agree with it. I get it.
I don't
it's
know.
Fine.
I'm always critical.
No, that's great. It's awesome. Let's debate it. I'm
just trying to also understand like what's your point with that? What are you trying to say with that?
No, it's what I'm trying to say is that you cannot just have just a plan in life and just a plan in football, because you're gonna have to be prepared for anything that can go wrong. And my whole point is that in professional football, man, so many times we've gone to a game, like not the major things because teams that are not going to change like the whole identity behind them, but like there are specific things that we thought they're going to do one way and they do completely differently. So we have to prepare in case they do it differently. Now they have options. We have options based on the players that they have, for example, of what they're going to do. Okay, like because we know that player is going to be doing something specific, or they like to do they like to play a certain way. So we kind of have an idea. But we have to prepare in case we get to the game, they do something completely different from what we predicted them to do. So instead of wasting the time now thinking and not being focused on the game, we're prepared in case they change something different. So we're prepared for a change. And put it this way, I think the only constant that you have in football or in high performance is change. So you have to be prepared. You have to be prepared for change.
Okay. Before we get to change and dealing with it, because I know we were touching on that, I just had one last scenario. I know that we'll nitpick and be like, oh, that's fine.
Go ahead.
Example.
Yeah.
You're a young coach.
Yeah.
You're working in a certain place.
Yes.
You might plan to stay there, but that's irrelevant to the point. Because it doesn't have anything to do with staying there. But you say, well, I want to be prepared for a job offer. There's no plan because you're not planning for a job offer. You say, I want to be prepared. So you put a bunch of video analysis projects together, some work, blah, 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 make a bunch of pre-made exercises. That's not a plan.
No?
No, why is that a plan? You're not planning for anything. Because plan means that you have certain objective. Like, I'm planning for something.
Right.
He's not planning for anything. He doesn't know what comes. So he just says, I'm going to prepare this.
All right.
For whatever situation may come. If somebody asks me for an exercise, I have ready to give him.
Right.
Somebody wants to give me a job and like, look, we want to look at your past work on video analysis. There's no plan there. At least for me, unless that's what I'm saying. I feel like we'll just go back to little delicacies.
Maybe we're talking about semantics here, but I think
exactly.
That's fine. That's fine.
Of course it's fine.
Because it just gives me and it gives you like an idea of how I see things, and it gives me an idea of how you see things, which is completely fine. But
interesting.
But in my opinion, the whole point of the whole things that you listed there, those are part of a plan.
A plan for what?
A plan for, in this case, getting a job somewhere else.
But that's what I'm asking. Is he planning for it? He's preparing for it. He's not planning for it.
He's planning for it without
knowing. He would never make that change.
Right.
He wants to stay with that club forever.
Right.
But he's saying, well, if one day I do get an offer, I don't know. He's not planning for it. He's planning to stay with that club.
Right. But he's also...
But he's prepared.
He's prepared to what?
To accept something else. But he didn't plan for it. Because for me, at least, plan means there's intention to do something and plan to change.
Right.
Like, I wouldn't make a plan if there's no reason and no destination. Like, I wouldn't just be like, well, I'm going to make this setup for a podcast without an intention of having a podcast.
Right.
Right? So that's a plan.
But did you prepare for the podcast?
Did.
Okay.
But it's different.
Okay.
We're talking about planning with preparation, not preparation without planning.
Right. But I just don't know. It's really hard for me to wrap my head around the fact that you can prepare for something without, at least when I say, because maybe to you, like,
you
having
prepare
a plan.
with a plan. Like, it's impossible maybe to prepare without a plan. No, objective, sorry. But not, exactly. You can do it without a plan. Sorry, I need to re-say that. It's just saying, because I was getting in trouble. I was saying, you can't have preparations without an objective, but you can have preparations without a plan.
Okay.
So I want to do this. I don't have a plan for getting there, but I'm going to get ready.
Okay.
I need to go shop.
But that's
I need to go shopping in X location. That's
Fair.
my objective. I'm going to put my shoes on, my clothes on. I don't have any plan to get there. I don't know how I'm going to get there.
Sure, but that's what I'm saying. Like,
semantics.
No, no, but the whole point of preparing, you have to ask and answer one question, which is how.
Not necessarily.
Then how are you going to prepare? If
I just put my clothes on, is that how? Because that's not telling me how I'm getting to X location, for example.
But to go there, you're going to put your clothes on. To go there, you're going to do 1, 2, 3.
That might be part of the plan, but that's not a plan.
Right, okay, but it's part of the plan. It's part of something that it is not a detailed plan. By the way, I don't
feel like that's a plan.
Okay.
Because like I said, planning has to have intentionality and direction. Putting on clothes doesn't have direction. I could walk and go for a walk in it.
But it does have a direction. You're going to a specific place.
But I could not go to that specific place.
Okay, then you go somewhere else. But it does have a direction.
I don't think it does. Well, in a minuscule, and then we're just breaking down to small and small.
Small. Exactly.
And then, until there's an infinite level.
Right.
So,
right.
Okay. The discussion will never end.
Never. Exactly.
I understand what you're trying to say, but
I know what you're trying to say too. It's just, but it's very interesting because, and I guess this is the great thing about having a conversation because you.
True.
Yeah, it's about finding out like how someone else looks at and sees the world. So.
All right.
Yeah, but anyway.
Okay.
And yeah, the whole point of it is, as I said, it's very important. It's very important to have a preparation as long as with the plan as well. Because most people, at least not most people, but I see a lot of people stop with a plan and not prepare themselves for a change or they kind of leave it to the last moment when something different happens to prepare themselves in that moment. But in high-paced environment, you cannot just leave it in that moment, is what I'm trying to say. In a high-paced environment, when things are limited in time and a game of football it's only 90 minutes and it's only 45-minute halves, you have to be prepared for something different. Specifically in the second half of a game, for example. That's usually where more the changes usually happen. So, yeah. Okay. Anyway, that's what I'm trying to say.
Then going to change.
Yes.
Change and dealing with it.
Yes.
What would you like to share? What did you want to share? Or did you want to discuss it?
No, I mean, it was just, as I said, it's one of the most, in my opinion, it's one of the most relevant things that you have to, you don't have to, but I think it is good that you acknowledge it, that is part of life, A lot of people are just, I don't know, for example, I
feel like there's a reason you're saying this, and I'm curious what's the reason behind.
For anything, really anything. It's not just, there's not one specific reason. Change comes in everything. Change is part of life, like you're gonna die. You're born, you're gonna grow old, your face is not gonna be the same anymore, your body's not gonna be the same anymore, your hair is not gonna be the same anymore, your image, whatever, anything that you're around, like you're accustomed to, is not gonna be the same anymore.
Right.
So the only constant that you have is that
Things will change.
Things will change, which is pretty ironic because consistency has got nothing to do with change.
The only thing that doesn't change is change.
Exactly. Yeah. So the quicker, I guess, you realize that, or the more comfortable, as long as hard it is, I mean, I know it's really hard, but as the more comfortable you become with the change, I guess, the easier it's to navigate in life, and it's easier to be part of the high performance environment, or a place where, or a work, or even a lifestyle where you have to do certain things at a certain pace at a certain time. So it's one of the most important things that I've personally learned to deal with. So it's not that it's a topic per se.
I was just curious.
Yeah.
Like, obviously, what makes me is that I'm not just interested in what people say, but why they say it. So
sure,
I don't know. Sometimes people say that, but they felt like they wanted to share it. Why? Why did you want to share that?
Right.
Why did you want to speak about
right.
it? Did something happen recently? Is it something on your heart? Why is it hard in your heart? And that's what my question was like, if you wanted to share that, why did you want to share that?
No,
going to a deeper level.
Yeah, let's go. I mean, honestly, let's go to a deeper level. It doesn't really have a deeper level. I guess maybe not for me. It doesn't have a deeper level, but I guess I don't know. For example, personally, like every day when I wake up, there's.
Why did you say it to me today?
Because again, I woke up.
Okay.
And the first thing that I always think when I wake up, and might be ironic, but it's like getting old and dying eventually.
Okay, interesting.
And it's a thought that not a lot of people can relate with, So I don't know.
I think a lot of people would, but
maybe not. Maybe yes. I don't know.
think so.
But I don't. It's not something that I find out a lot when I speak to people. It's not something that you share really, and it's kind of ironic that I'm sharing this in a podcast, and the whole internet is gonna see it.
We can cut it out.
Yeah.
We'll see.
But yeah, it's again, it's this idea that you kind of open your eyes in the morning and kind of start new. You start a new day. You start another day, and the first thing that I usually think of, is like, oh, I'm getting old. Eventually, I'm gonna die. And it's gonna be one day. It's gonna be the last day I'm gonna wake up. So it's a thought that it's been with me since I was very early on, since I was a kid almost. So yeah.
And do you think it's a negative thing?
No, I don't.
Because actually, I've heard people saying that's actually a very important thing.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think it's
makes you take the most out of life.
Yeah, not just that. Exactly, not just. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it also like prepares you for, not prepares you, but it kind of helps you see the life with less anxiety. Like, like there's a lot of people, in my opinion, that their daily dosage of anxiety is because, and this is just my opinion, it might be controversial, is because they refuse to think about change. They refuse to think about change in their life, and once they're kind of met with some idea of change or anything that happens in their life, they might think it happened out of the blue. They get anxious about it because they haven't thought about it. They don't want to bring themselves to think about it, because for a lot of people, and this is just my opinion. For a lot of people, they think that change
is uncomfortable. It's uncertain.
It's uncertain. Because people want to be certain about things. They want to have safety. They want to have security. They want to have, they want to have some certainty about things. And again, this goes back to the whole change, and goes back to the whole, the consistency in life, that is, everything is going to change. So yeah, anyway, so that was the only thing that I wanted to bring it up for.
Funny enough, I'll share my part here. I don't know why I don't need to, right? But
yes, you do.
I think actually my fear wouldn't be related to change. I'm not deflecting anything you said, but you said like, oh, I think many people fear this, and I was like, oh, what do I fear? And for me, funny enough, I don't fear death. I don't fear like a limit of time, like my time is limited. I think for me, I fear not getting somewhere.
Sure.
That's what gives me anxiety. That's why I thought about
being
it, because
stale.
you said that part, like,
yeah,
what gives people anxiety. that gives me anxiety every day. Not so much anymore because I made a lot of peace on it. I did a lot of work on it.
Yeah.
But that was what feared. Because it wasn't time. It was like, well, if I had infinite time and I never got somewhere, it wouldn't matter.
Yeah.
Getting somewhere, being to a certain level of success or a certain level of achievement or whatever I set out to do. So I set this objective.
Yeah.
My biggest stress was like, what if I don't get there?
Yeah. Yeah.
Whether I live forever or not is actually worse if you live forever and you never got there.
Right.
It's so much scarier.
Exactly. Exactly.
So that was...
I agree.
And still is maybe the thing that I would fear the most, even though I fear it a lot less, like, especially with the podcast, with like successes, you know, for me, like, oh, will I make it? You know, that feeling, will I make it? And so accepting like, no, this is the process. Enjoy the process. There is no end goal. It's not like you make $1 million, you're good. You know, it's like, oh, okay. So what's the end goal? Is it living in that place, this place? No, like this is what you got to enjoy.
Yeah, yeah.
That was just a side note, but yeah. That's what, I don't know if you want to say anything in relation to that. Otherwise, I'll touch on something else.
No, I agree 100%. It's very interesting because you, and I've told you this off camera, but it's very interesting because we reflect each other in many point of view. Like we agree in many points, and it's kind of rare because I don't really have that with many people in my life. So it's very interesting that you fear the same thing, because I also fear the same thing. And if you look at my journey in life, like there's a lot of things that I did because I was thinking in that moment that if I don't do this, I'm going to be stale. Yeah. I'm going to not grow. And I don't, and again, like the whole thing about going to Portugal is like, I was feeling that I was in a plateau. I was hitting a plateau. I was not moving much, even though I was, you know, doing okay. I was just, you know, I was still feeling that I was not moving much. And movement is very important. So not just physical movement, but also movement as far as like achieving things in life and doing something that your heart desires, and also challenging yourself. I like to be challenged. I like to not have an easy task to do. I like complicated stuff sometimes. I don't know. It's maybe it's not it's not an everyday thing. I'm not saying that everything has to be completely super hard to achieve, and sometimes if it's too hard to achieve, maybe it's not the right thing to do. But I also do enjoy challenge, you know, so. Yeah,
I definitely do enjoy the same.
Yeah.
Like, I think progress is made a lot faster when we're put in front of a challenge.
Absolutely.
Yeah, as long as you have a good relationship with that. And then, yeah, I felt the need to tie in the idea of life cycles with that. Because I feel like it's related, at least for me. So I'll just say that for me, it felt like, you know, when the life cycle for me, you know, being like 3 to 5 years, for whoever's watching is confused, like, what is this guy talking about life cycle? Being like a period of time where life goes in a cycle. At least for me, it normally represents me adjusting to a new environment. You know, in the various phases, normally 3 to 5 years, being like the first year is, you know, pure adjustment. You learn the language, you get to know the people. You're just maybe even more reacting than being proactive. Like, okay, well, I got to go here because I signed up for, you know, the school or for a job. And then the second year being, okay, now I already know what I need to do, you know, settling down, being more okay. And then the third year of progressing, then making progress. For me, that being life cycle. I wish I could explain it better. And so that's a good thing to challenge myself to do. But then that is almost like a challenge for me. And that's why I said, like, I feel like that challenge for me, even coming to Portugal, is sort of ended. You know, it's like, I wanted to come to Portugal to study football. Okay, that's sort of done. So what are you doing here? You know, like, what's next? Like, you're building a podcast, but could you do it somewhere else, somewhere where you're more challenged? You should go to a country where you can learn a new language, Spanish, Italian, whatever. Like, so that's what I feel. I would like to hear what you have to say on that topic.
Yeah, life cycles. So there's, I don't know where I heard this, don't quote me, but like there's this belief that I think in Buddhism or one of the many Indian philosophies / religions, they look at life in cycles as well. And there's, again, don't quote me on it, but I think the time that it takes for the Earth to rotate around the sun, like a full rotation, not like rotate around itself, but around the sun, I think it's 12 years. And it's funny enough because I look at my life and every 12 years, you know, there's a major shift or a major change or a beginning and the end of a cycle has happened for me. So it's funny enough that you've said 3 to 5 years. I see that, I don't know, like within those 12 years, there's definitely like smaller cycles starting and ending. But for me, I'm 33 years old. So I'm in my third cycle around the sun right now. I just started it. Oh, well, it's about to end. So I remember like the first 12 years of my life, we were lived in a specific way. I grew up with my grandparents, for example, and then I moved in with my parents after that. And then when I was 24, for example, I moved out and live on my own. So, the big shifts and big major things, I guess, in my life have happened every 12 years.
Okay.
But there's I
guess life is full cycles. Like life and death is a cycle.
Exactly.
You can go through it all. Like
exactly.
Child, parent cycle, like just whatever you decide to name it, I guess.
Yeah, and whatever is most important to you, I guess, you defines what a cycle really is.
Yeah, I guess for me it would be self-development or maybe a challenge. That's it. Maybe the challenge is what determines the life cycle.
Yeah.
Whatever. Yeah. Also wanted to ask you, it took a while to get around to this, but I made a mental note to talk about it, is superstition. Its role in football, and I feel like you had something you wanted to share or at least discuss about it.
Yeah,
so feel free.
Man, it's really interesting because it's like the work that I do. Okay, not that I'm like a scientist or anything like that, but we study the scientific process of football basically.
Yeah.
So we try to predict as much as we can. Obviously, we know we cannot predict everything, but we try to make it as predictable as possible. And you want to learn as much as you can about how the body works or how like everything works that has to do with physical, that you can, I don't know, benefit the players and limit all the restrictions or limit all the things that would otherwise people would consider bad luck. You enter into a football dressing room before a game, you see like what like players call game routine. And it is like, I cannot call it anything else than superstition, because like they have to have certain things done a certain way. Otherwise, and I'm telling you, they will not step on the pitch. They will not do it. I've had it, forget about it now. I've had it since I was working in Estoril Praia. I'm not going to name players, but there were players like, they have to have like a specific way of taping their wrist and had to have the word faith in it written. So nobody else could see it in a specific place. Otherwise, they would not step on the pitch. They would not have it without going that. And I would ask them, why not? I mean, just have it on the other side. Or like we would be late sometimes preparing for the game. So sometimes we'd have to like wrap it up quickly. He would refuse to enter on the field. Like he would be like, this was protecting me in case something is happening on the field, in case a hard tackle goes in or something like that. In his mind, it was registered that way, that if he doesn't do this, something bad was going to happen to him on the field.
And is there a past experience of something bad happening on the field? I feel like sometimes those things come from reality.
Yes,
as being a player before.
But in this case,
I'm asking you.
Sure. In this case, no.
Okay, interesting.
In this case, no.
Because I have what I think but sort of helps me understand why people have superstitions or even conspiracy theories.
Sure.
But I can't say why or not they choose not to enter the field.
Yeah.
But from a general perspective, I think this is the way I think about it, at least superstitions or even like conspiracy theories, is that, I mean, like I said before, we can break things down into an infinite amount of blocks.
Sure.
So, this happens for whatever reason. This is the result of that thing in my personal past. Even at the psychological level, we talk about, things in our childhood affecting our future, blah, blah, blah. We could break it down to infinite blocks, right?
Sure.
It's people not understanding processes, and so they give a superficial reason to that.
Sure.
At a very basic level, for example. And that's why I asked, is there past experience? Because maybe there was an experience where he didn't tie his shoe the right way and he tripped on it.
Yeah.
And he scored an own goal, or he was the last man standing, he tripped on this thing, something happened. And he was like, oh, well, it was because I didn't tie my shoelace.
Yeah, I wish I could say yes, but it's not always the case. And that's why I think it's superstition, because and I think superstition is fed by your fears and by your brain by your mind most of the time. It's fed like you inevitably you kind of feed yourself information that if certain thing doesn't happen this way, or for example,
it is based on truth. Like for example, a player, we talk about flow.
Yeah,
it could be science. It is true.
Yes.
For example, there are keys to unlock flow.
Yes.
I'm just curious if the guy understands it or not.
Well, that's the thing. In his mind, and I'll tell you, in his mind, it's the opposite is true. For example, he did that one time, and he scored a goal. So now he has to do it all the time, for example.
But he doesn't score the goal every time he puts it.
Of course not.
Well, then that doesn't make sense as a superstition.
Exactly. Well, it's
because for me, a superstition is something that fulfills itself. Like, oh, I tie my thing, and that's why I haven't gotten injured.
But it can be. I'm
both. Not judging your.
Yeah, no.
I'm actually, funny enough, questioning his definition of superstition. But for me, that's not a superstition.
Yeah, well,
because superstition is based on recurring facts, which is I realize every time I did this, we don't lose the game.
Right.
Well, then your superstition makes sense because, like I said, you're explaining something you can't explain. Like I don't know why we're winning every game, but I'm not going to risk not.
I'm not going to change. Yeah, I'm not going to change this.
If you lose, it's my fault.
Sure.
If it's a thing where it's like, well, every time I do whatever he does, I score a goal. Yet every game he isn't scoring a goal. For me, I don't know. I'm sorry to say it, but it doesn't count as superstition.
I agree. No, but I agree. But that's the thing. This was just one of the examples. But I've seen. I mean, I've seen so many other examples. I kind of refuse to even call them superstitions anymore because you kind of find out that players have their routine, and every routine is different from everyone else. Mm-hmm. Everyone has their routine. Probably the only thing that they have in common is usually that you're gonna have like music playing in the dressing room. That's usually the most common thing. Okay, but what they're doing to prepare for the game, it is completely different. And I've seen crazy things. I've seen people pray, like they pull out the Bible and pray. I've seen like people do play with a ball before, and they have to have the feeling with the ball before you even go to the field. They have to have the ball, like they even have to hold the ball. People do breathing exercises. Again, people tie their wrist a certain way. People tie their shoes a certain way. People, I don't know. They do so many things. So many things are different. They put a socks different way from that to like they put a certain color underwear that day. It goes from the weirdest to the, I guess you'd be like, oh, that makes kind of sense, but it's just whatever works. And I think
it's unique.
It is unique, but at the end of the day, and when you say you and me, whoever is like the coach, you don't get in between that, because at the end of the day, if even if it's a placebo effect, you don't care as long as you get 5%, 1%, even 1% extra of that guy, just because he's thinking now that because he did that, everything is going to be better. It don't matter.
Yeah, I guess my problem there was he attached it to a certain rule, certain, what would you say, outcome.
Yes.
That wasn't validated. So it didn't make, like tying your wrist like as a thing to enter the field. I don't know. I don't think it's connected to an outcome.
Definitely
I don't
not.
think it's like we're gonna win the game because we tie our. It's more like I'm tying this right and that gets me into that game.
Yeah,
and that's fine because it's not tied to an outcome.
Yeah.
My question with that guy specifically was like he tied it to an outcome.
Yes.
That on top of it wasn't even validated by his experiences. And
because as this is what I was trying to say, because there's such thing as a game routine, but then you kind of feed your mind because you do this. Everything is going to be better, and there's players, not just players, by the way, there's coaches who have to do a certain thing before they even go into the pitch. I've seen that happen myself. So it's just I guess a routine can turn into a superstition if you let it get there without questioning why you're thinking that way, or with feeding enough information to your mind that if you do this, this will happen. And what I'm trying to say is your mind is probably the strongest and the most, at the same time, the most fragile thing, because you can teach it things that can be beneficial to you, but also things that are not beneficial to you, which at the end of the day ties to performance. So
yeah,
that was my point basically.
It's super interesting. And yeah, I understand what you're trying to say. I think there was a direction I was trying to say there, which was I think they do it and they understand there is benefit to it. And that's why, but why they call it a superstition instead of science is because they don't understand what's going on.
Right.
For example, a player being like, well, I realize that if I kick the ball around 5 minutes before a game, I play better. Well, like, I'm going to say this a bit rudely, but like, duh, you practice. It's like you hitting a couple balls before you step on a court. It's like, well, obviously, so you're not understanding the psychological, scientific understanding of that. Or, well, I do certain thing and I realize I play better. Like I said, well, it's you just not understanding the science. Or me eating 3 hours before instead of 2 hours before. It's like, well, it's better, dude, if you studied it, you'd understand that there's scientific knowledge behind that. All that leading into something I wanted to talk about here, which was the power of the mind.
Yeah.
And I didn't say that we would talk about this on the podcast today, but it's something I was thinking about. So I think it sort of fits in here.
Sure.
Which is the power of ideas.
Yes. Yes.
I'll let you speak first, and then I'll give you what I have to say. I don't know if this interests you. If not, I'll speak first or whatever.
No. I mean, absolutely interests me because, again, going back to those examples that I just gave, or the examples that you gave, I mean, again, it to me, it's about as I said, your mind is probably the most fragile and also the strongest thing that you can have. Or so it all boils down to what you actually put in it, what you actually feed to it. So in this case, you can only realize the power of your mind if you actually train it well. And this is what I call training well. Training well your mind is giving positive feedback or I guess doubling down on things that make you feel good or you actually see some benefits for yourself. And at the end of the day, what you're actually really doing, and this is just my opinion, is that you're creating a routine. You're creating a routine for yourself. You're doing things in a routine way, things that actually work well for you. So you're basically disciplining yourself. And I don't know, I think that's that's one of the strengths that a strong mind can give you, but also vice versa. If you don't have a strong mind, the way to get there, in my opinion, is that you actually have to discipline yourself. And how does that come? Building a routine, having certain things that you want to achieve and getting there, planning it, preparing for it, the whole thing. But I actually let you speak more about it because I don't know where you want to go with this.
It wasn't exactly what I was saying, but I have a question related to that, as I have a question with everything.
Sure.
Which is, and I think you almost said it there. I don't remember exactly the way you said it, but I want to put it like this, which is, do you think maybe discipline is the sign of, but semantics again, discipline is a sign of an unstrong mind? In the sense that an unstrong mind creates discipline.
Yes.
But that's not necessarily true because discipline is actually the sign of an unstrong mind. I don't know. I'm putting it out there because it's something I thought about recently, which is, for example, why is this relevant? For example, if even people have spoken to me or watched this podcast probably know that I talk about to-do lists and habits and planning. And it's like, I was thinking about it this week and I was like, dude, very honestly, you can be disciplined. That's a very choice of life. Wake up at 6, put the alarm clock, finish thing at 8, blah, 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 blah. You work like a robot. It will get you the results you probably want.
Yes.
Power of ideas, but I'll get into that. It'll probably get you the results that you want. Like, buff or this or that. Or I only eat this kind of food and I know the science and I only eat that. Great. But you had to go to routine and force discipline. I just call it discipline.
Sure.
For people to understand it, I'll call it just forced discipline. It's because you technically don't have a strong mind. And this is not to insult anybody. It's actually a challenge to myself.
Absolutely.
Which was like, you forcing yourself to do 12 to-do lists is you just not having a strong mind. Because if you had a strong mind, you do it without a to-do list. Like, I know I need to do this. I would do it right now and not say, well, I have to put a timer or I have to do it by 11, otherwise I can't do this. Or let me cut out everything in my life to make sure I do this.
Yeah.
All because actually the problem wasn't discipline, but because you didn't train your mind. I don't know what you have to say about that.
I think it's a relevant problem in today's society. I honestly don't think
I don't know if it's a problem, but
you don't think it's a problem?
I mean,
it becomes a problem for people who are aware. For people, it becomes a problem for people who are aware. It becomes a problem for people who want to achieve certain things, and if they don't have the discipline, then it becomes a problem. So by definition, it only becomes a problem for those who are aware of it. But I think it is a problem because of the variety, not just variety, but because of the array of choices that we have nowadays. We have so many choices. I mean, you have so many things that can grab your attention, and attention is probably the most important thing that you have, because wherever you focus and whatever you give your attention to, that thing is going to grow in life. So I think there's a lot of things that are trying to grab people's attentions, and I think this is probably the greatest ideas and the greatest products ever invented, in my opinion. And you can take me to the bank with this, or you can probably disagree, but I really firmly believe this. The strongest, most positive, not most positive, but the most successful ideas and the most successful products ever made are products that are related to somehow grabbing humans' attention in some way. So it is. I think some people call now internet or like the technology that we have nowadays war on attention, because you have a lot of like kids or even adults. They have like even terms now, like people who cannot focus, and I don't even want to go into that side, but like people have lost the ability to focus. But I think people have always been this way. It's just before they didn't have the war of attention that they have now. They didn't have this variety of things that could grab their attention the way is doing it now. At least it was not as flashy, and it was not as I don't know.
No, they definitely did.
As much as it is in your face nowadays.
The input levels is completely different.
Exactly. So that's the thing. So discipline now becomes important because of that. Now you have almost like an enemy who's trying to grab your attention from what you're trying to do, and that's why.
But that's what I'm asking. Do you need discipline, or do you need a strong mind? Because the discipline is saying, I will not touch my phone at this time or this time, but you're forcing yourself.
Yes.
Versus just saying, I know that it doesn't.
Yeah, because your
positive
mind,
benefits, so I reject it, and
Absolutely.
I don't have to put a time limit on it.
Because
That's why,
the mind. Because
I know,
the mind,
like we're coming from different angles.
I get it. But the mind doesn't react to being strong or being weak. The mind reacts to getting dopamine. I'm sure you know about
But you
this.
can reject it.
Yes, but it's going to give you dopamine. It's going to
give you dopamine. So
yes.
you go to it, not because of discipline, but because of a strong mind.
Sure, but at the end of the day, your mind already knows that it's going to give you dopamine. So what is interesting, I think,
is that relevant?
Is
that's
that
just knowledge?
Well, it's not that it's irrelevant or relevant. I think it has more to do with what is it called? The reptilian mind, your small brain, which actually it's what is responsible for. And maybe I'm wrong about this, but I think it's more responsible for like
maybe the dopamine isn't the solution.
That's the evolution. Like that's where people have started this like whole movement about like being disciplined and everything, because they have realized that what you just said. But I think the mind, deep down, if you boil it down, what it knows is that it's gonna get a hit of dopamine. Mm-hmm. So like the mind wants it, the mind craves it. Now, how much strength do you have, and how much like reasoning can do with your own mind to either have it or not? That's a different story. But it doesn't mean that you're weak because of that, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. It means that the whole setup of society or the whole setup of everything right now is such that you kind of have to discipline yourself before, whereas before like discipline was just easier to do because it was just part of routine.
Yeah,
it was building itself into it, and everybody like didn't have any other things to like, or didn't have many things to just rely on when it came to like a dopamine rush. Now it's like whatever you need, like. What is your drug of choice? So just it's a lot of things that can take you there. And I understand what you're saying, that having to have discipline is probably a sign of a weak mind, because
I don't know. That's what I wanted.
No, I understand that. I understand that very
That's
well.
why I wanted to let you speak there because I realized that we're coming from different angles.
Yes.
So since we're touching it, I'll ask it better, which is, do you think discipline, or for example routines, is incongruent with a strong mind? I'm not saying you can't do work with each other, like you can't use a strong mind to have discipline, whatever.
Right.
But the opposite being the necessity for self-imposed forced
I understand exactly what you're saying.
And the routines being the sign of a weak mind.
I understand exactly what you're saying, and I see your point of view. I agree with it. A certain way, because if someone, for example, and it also depends on the person. It depends on the person in the sense that if you meet someone or if you know someone already that their life in that moment revolves around discipline, usually what is a sign of that they have probably a lot of inconsistency in life and they want to get better in that, which is actually nothing wrong with it. Mm-hmm. But at the same moment in that time, you probably realize that this guy or this gal, whatever, in that moment in life, they're not experiencing the most strength when it comes to their mind. So that's why they have to force themselves, or that's why they kind of, not force, but that's why their world revolves around discipline, because they want to get better at something, they want to move on, they want to achieve something. But at the same time, you cannot say that is weakness, because the very fact that you're going through it and the process of it, it is really hard to achieve and do.
But that's the strong mind.
Right.
That's the strong mind telling you to be disciplined.
So there's a weak mind and a strong mind.
Well, that's why I'm trying to differentiate it. What I'm saying is that person, for example, you're saying is inconsistent in their habits. Let's say, like, dude, I want to work out every day and I'm not doing it. I want to change. I want to be disciplined.
Sure.
So I didn't say it was a weak mind, because that's not what we stated. What we stated is he's not doing something he wanted to do. He could actually have a good mind, a strong mind.
Right.
He uses the strong mind to implement discipline to build a habit.
Okay.
But discipline in itself, since it's forced, means that he's not doing it consciously, and so it's separate from the strong mind.
But is discipline forced?
I think
yeah, sure. I think discipline is one of those words that actually has received a really bad connotation, in my opinion, because.
But I'll just bring something. It's like the people who say I'm disciplined because I wake. There's the famous thing of like, oh, I'm disciplined because I wake up at 6, and people are like, well, no, you enjoy it.
Yeah,
it's different. So that's what I'm saying. When people will probably listen to me and be like, but I do this because I'm disciplined. I'm like, no, you do because you have a strong mind.
Yes.
You have, and that's what I'm saying. I wanted to see if there is, and at least in my opinion, recently I've been thinking there's a discernment. There's a break there.
Yeah.
There's a moment where it passes from discipline to strong mind. Which is, I choose this actively. I can wake up, my body clock wakes me up, whether it's 6 or 6:05, I don't need an alarm clock, and I know I will not pick up the phone, and I will do things. Yeah. I don't need to lock the phone in a box or force myself like, no, before 7 you cannot do it, otherwise you get no lunch.
Right.
That would be discipline.
Right.
Strong mind would be like, no, I know I don't have to, I won't go.
So your strong mind basically is like,
I'm asking and I'm proposing.
Yeah, no, I get it. No, I understand. I think even this one comes a little bit into semantics. Yeah. I think.
I know.
Because most people, no, that's fine, that's great. But most people, whatever you described there as discipline would call it strong mind. Or whatever you described as strong mind, will people actually, most likely, whatever you described as strong mind, will people most likely call it discipline.
Yes.
Yes. So, look, the most important thing is actually doing what you mean to do and what you want to do, and actually having the strength to do it, and actually reaping the benefits of what you think you want to do, whatever that is. Okay, like people want to achieve different things in life, as long as it's for the good of humanity and good for of yourself, and whatever that is you want to do it. But
sure.
But it doesn't. I don't know. Like. It's a very interesting idea, like because now you made me think about it, but I had not thought about that.
I'll share where it came from, because everybody, I'm sure, has a love-hate relationship with productivity.
Sure.
And like I told you before, my fear of not getting somewhere. So it's like, well, maximum potential, maximum productivity, and etc. So I would say, in a general sense, I don't have a lot of distractions in my life. Like, I'm pretty low. Like, I don't spend money on stupid stuff.
I know.
Don't do stupid stuff. Like whether it's stupid or not stupid, that's a whole nother discussion. But like,
Yes.
I don't do a lot of things except what I and most people would consider productive or things. But I have 2 or 3 things that
You're not the typical 23-year-old, that's for sure.
22.
22. My bad.
But I don't have a lot of things that would distract me or would be considered unhealthy or ungood.
Yeah.
But I have 2 or 3 things, and I've, obviously understand that I'm not a millionaire.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm not even where I would like to be, and I'm, ideally, I have that battle, which is like, well, what if I cut everything out?
Yeah.
Under just pretense of like Mr. Discipline, no, there's no movies. These are real examples. Like, do I watch a TV series every now and then? Because I know sometimes I will spend 4 or 5 hours watching a TV series.
Yeah.
And I think about it, sometimes I'm like, well, I could have read a book. I could
Yeah.
have produced my website. I could have done this. Well, if I cut it out hypothetically, that and 2 other things in my life, well, I'd be Mr. Perfect and Mr. Disciplined.
Yeah. Will you?
Will I?
Will you?
Because it's false. It would be a fake discipline. I mean, that goes into happiness too, which is like, well, you have to go into enjoy certain things in life too.
Yeah. You've incarnated in this life out of pleasure. I think someone told me this, like, because
So,
again,
that's where it came from.
Yeah, I get it. I guess this is the struggle that people who are always trying to improve something about themselves, who are always trying to better themselves. This is the struggle that they face themselves with, because now it kind of becomes like a perpetual motion where you always have to get better and get better and get better, and then
where does it end?
What do you take out of? Like, what are you gonna take eventually? Like, and I know people like this, by the way. Actually, they live in apartments that are completely empty, with just a mattress. And because they're well, I don't need, like, they've started from something, and now they're like, well, minimalism, like, I don't need things, I don't need this, I don't need that, I don't need that. And okay, look, it's fine, but I think if it goes
if they're happy,
if they're happy, okay, but I think if it goes beyond a certain point, and it's like a point of no reverse, then it can be a little bit dangerous. Now, my problem is, my problem is, and it's not a problem, but it's like we enjoy physical things. Like, we enjoy, and I don't think there's anything wrong with enjoying the physical things that life has to offer, or whatever the distractions that life has to offer. The only thing is not make it your way of life.
Yeah.
And as long as you're not making them your way of life, and I think you're gonna be fine. But like limiting yourself to the point where, like, okay, you do it one day you just watch movies for 5 hours. Okay, whatever, man. But as long as you don't do it the next day, then you're fine. Now, are you currently doing something that you have to produce every day without skipping a beat? That's a different story. Maybe you can enter into a mode in your life that you're gonna have to you set a goal for yourself to achieve something in 1 year, okay? And you just divide that goal. Okay, every day I'm gonna have to do this and this and this. Okay, if you have that, then okay, follow that plan. But if you don't have such very specific plan, and like you get into yourself about, like, I don't know, like, why did I watch a movie where I could just, I don't know, could have done something else? I don't think it's gonna change much in your life, because I think also, like, relaxing, whatever. That's another topic, because it's not really about relaxing, but anyway, but just giving yourself this kind of like guilty pleasures is also not a bad thing, as long as they don't become your way of life, obviously. So
yeah, it's a constant battle.
Yeah, it's the constant battle of people that want to get better. But it's a good battle to have. Everyone fights a battle in life, I think. Some people fight battles with things they're, I don't know, like more evil or more harsher to face, and others with this kind of battles. And I think this is the best kind of battles that you want to have are these ones.
Yeah, I guess you choose your outcome, like you say. Like,
yeah,
you could just say, well, screw it, no distractions, nothing, be productive. And the good and bad, well, it's mostly good, but maybe it's bad, is that life works the way it does.
Yeah.
Which is, well, you cut out all the distractions, you probably will get whatever you want. If you wanted to run every day, you'd run every day.
And sometimes you don't have the guarantee.
X amount of money.
Right.
You might not have a guarantee, but it probably happens.
You at least do, right. You at least, exactly.
And if you do, go out sometimes, or you do this, well, there's nothing wrong with that. But there will be consequences, right?
Of course.
Oh, maybe.
As long as you're aware of the consequences, I think everything's fine.
I don't know how much more we'll record, but let's touch that idea of ideas. I'll just explain where it came from.
Okay.
And then I'd like to hear your thoughts. Because we also talked about social, political, like things off camera, even before we filmed this podcast. So it didn't get all filmed. Otherwise, we'd have like 8 hours of filming. Because that's pretty much the fact that we talked all day together. Yeah. Which is the power of ideas. Which is, at least this is the way I've been thinking about it recently. I've been reading Think and Grow Rich. It was actually my second read through because I felt like I needed to go back and visit it. It's the power of ideas and thinking, which is what was, at least this is my opinion, what was the fundamental change that made the world become what we have it today?
Right.
Why did it change so fast in 100 years and not in however long you think the world is?
Right.
We'll not go into that.
Right.
I think I've heard it before, but I can't remember if I heard it before, so I'll just take this as my connection to creativity and whatever you want to call it. Being that it all stemmed from the power of the idea. People realized you can do whatever you imagine or dream. Whatever you can think of is possible. If you think of living on Saturn, technically you could live on Saturn. Yeah. You can make it happen. Yeah. And that's what made the exponential growth. It's like, what, quantum physics? Well, somebody imagined it. Right. And if you can imagine it, then you can do it. And I mean, that goes into motivation for life, like inspiring people, like, dude, whatever you can imagine, you can do. Right. I mean, you don't know how long it'll take. You don't know what will be the price if you have to cut off your arms and legs to get there, like what it will take. But fundamentally, the change was you can do whatever you put your mind to. Yeah. Power, focus, etc. Like converting ideas into reality. But that fact of like people understanding, oh, we can do whatever we imagine. Yeah. And not being allowed, not being allowed, but sort of not being allowed, but not promoted in the years past. Anyways, I just wanted to drop that bomb. Whatever. I don't know.
No, not a bomb. Not a bomb.
Maybe you have an opinion, maybe you don't. I don't know.
No, again, I agree with you 100%. There's, again, even in the world of sports, in the world of performance, specifically the world of performance, and you have to like be in such environments, the power of your mind is great. I remember, by the way, when I was, and you said the American teams have had a lot of success. For example, there's this culture, for example, that exists in America of like some teams, and you name some of them. I can guarantee you that, because I've learned this from American coaches, there's a lot of coaches who have create this habit of their players to visualize as they're in the dressing room. And I didn't see this in Portugal, for example. Maybe it happens, but I just personally didn't see it. But they force their players, obviously, not, force them, but they kind of ask their players to kind of visualize the game before it happens. And there's a lot of power to it, obviously. So people have known this for a long time, and they're applying it, and that's why the world is going forward. I don't know if it's relevant to you in this case, that I'm taking everything and I'm putting it in the sports context, but this is, I've seen this firsthand, and I've learned it from other coaches, as I said, where they'll tell the players, they would even do it themselves. They visualize the game, and they would visualize the outcome that they actually wanted from the game. Mm-hmm. That was the most important thing. They would tell the players to visualize the outcome that they wanted, and when they step in the field, and also like acknowledge the feeling that they were having while they were visualizing that thing. So if there was a victory, or if it was a goal that someone would score, just like feel the goal that you're visualizing, like feel the joy, or feel the enthusiasm that you just scored a goal in that moment as you visualize it, and then go ahead and actually make it happen on the pitch. Yeah. So I guess it just ties back to that idea. So the power of the mind it's amazing. There's so many things, so many books written about it. I personally couldn't tell you like the last book I read about it, because it's been a bit long time now. I'm pretty ashamed to say it, but I haven't had much time to read recently. But there's a lot of like literature when it comes, and scientific literature actually. Yeah.
It is scientific. It's not just some...
No. This is not sorcery. This is not witchcraft. Like or like legends told in bonfire, but
Yeah.
this is definitely science. But yeah, I can only agree with that. I can only agree with that because the power of the mind, specifically when you train your body and your mind, and those two get into sync. I don't know, like they say the world, like the sky is the limit. So
Well, yeah, that's the point.
yeah,
Everything could change.
yeah.
All right. So know what you want to dive into now. We could talk about boredom. We could also close this up. Talk about with some finishing questions. Yeah.
Yeah. No, sure.
Um,
Yeah, go ahead on boredom. You said something the other day that was just like I still have it in my mind.
yeah, I don't feel so passionate about it now because like also like I'm not interviewing, but like sort of interviewing you. It's not my turn to talk.
No, but it's fine. You can throw it as a topic and we can discuss it.
Yeah, I think it goes along with ideas of you and attention and distractions and all that stuff, but the importance of boredom. Funny enough, I'll be honest about this. Funny enough, I thought about this to myself, and then a couple of days later, I saw this guy. He's on Instagram, he's on YouTube. I don't remember if it was for Goldman Sachs, like YouTube channel. That's why I was surprised. I don't remember his name, unfortunately.
Okay.
But they also did a video on that, like why isn't boredom important? I was like, what? I just thought about this 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
Which is funny because it leads into another idea that creativity is not unique; it's universal.
Yes.
It's whoever wants to connect.
You're tapping in, exactly.
Which is a whole nother conversation.
Yes.
But infinite conversations.
Yes.
But the idea being importance of boredom is that, at least for me, and this is what I like to share with people, is that when you take everything out of your life, you find what you really want to do.
Right.
So you force yourself to sit and do nothing.
Yeah.
No food. It's not even no food. It's just like you're not allowed to do anything.
Yeah.
You want to cook? Don't cook. You want to do this? No. You want to pick your phone? No. You just sit.
Yes.
And
be still.
Be still. But actually, I told you this before, like walking for me is better. So,
yes.
But it's not doing anything, I don't even know how to define it, because walking is doing something, but a natural or whatever with some certain direction. Just
walking with no destination.
You can walk around the house.
Yeah.
Just walking, even if it's outside, but you're not allowed to do anything, and you find which, in a sense, what you really want to do.
Mm-hmm.
You isolate and say, what is important to me?
Yeah.
And that's actually the story I always share with people when they're like, why did you start a podcast?
Mm-hmm.
No logical explanation. The story is, and this is not my first podcast for whoever's watching. I did create a podcast before. I don't even know if you...
Yes.
You know that, right?
We've talked about it, yes.
And the story was one Saturday, 2 years ago, much younger in my personal development, I was just like frustrated, just a normal university student, had classes, had to study, whatever, had movies to watch, whatever people do, maybe go hang out with friends or whatever. I was like, dude, I don't know what I really want to do, like with my life or like what I enjoy doing. So I said, you know what, I'm not allowed to do anything today.
Yeah.
I was sad. I came here where the sofa it's over there now, but it's usually here.
Yeah.
Sat on the sofa, went back to my room. I was so bored. I was like, what do I want to do? What do I want to do? What do I want to do?
Right.
I said, I want to make a podcast.
Out of nowhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. What do I do with that information?
Have you thought? Sorry to interrupt you. Have you thought prior of that? No. Right. So that's what I'm saying. Like,
it was just like, what do I want to do? Okay. What do you enjoy doing? Oh, I like talking to people. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I want information. Okay. I want to share information. Okay. I just walked around the room and I was so definite about it.
Yeah.
That it did something.
Yeah.
Which is, I sent a voice message to a friend. I was like, dude, I really want to create a podcast.
Yeah.
And I left it at that. I didn't do anything after that either. Came back, checked my phone like a couple minutes later or an hour later. Either he missed call or it was I don't remember the topic was like, dude,
let's do it.
I wanted to build a podcast too.
Okay.
I was like, huh? What are the chances that out of all the people I texted, the one person I texted was someone who wanted to do a podcast.
Right.
We built a podcast, funny enough, did a full season, 10 episodes. That being said, that's what I usually do when I need a refresh. I just like do a day where I'm not allowed to do things. And I realized like, oh yeah, I miss simple stuff. I miss cooking. I miss being creative with my cooking.
Yes.
I miss reading. Yeah, I miss podcasting. Or I miss doing this or that, or sports, or seeing this person. And it's such a nice like reset when you take everything that you're supposed to do out, you find what you really want to do.
Yeah.
Long story short, that's all I had to share.
No, that was great. No, it was just the way that you phrased it, because again, like boredom is another word that people like avoided, don't want to use it, and it's bad. It's just like if you say you're bored, you're just like you're finished. You know, nobody like you just also become like. People also like relate boredom, in my opinion, with relevance. Like if you're bored, then you're like boring. If you're boring and bored, you kind of like also not relevant as a person. Or you're less relevant as a person, and people want to be relevant, of course. Yeah. So it's very interesting the way they said it, and it's also like kind of juxtaposing in a way, because you're here you are in this world of wanting to build a podcast, but you're also welcoming boredom, which I thought it was so. That's why it just like blew me away when you said it. I was like, this is very, very interesting. I hadn't thought about this.
I think I told you I enjoy boredom.
You did say that. You did say enjoy. You enjoy boredom. You said I enjoy boredom. I was like, wow, okay. I had never thought about it that way.
Yeah.
But at the same time, when I heard it, I'm like, I understand it. I understand it why you say that. I do understand it. So it connected with me, and it was something that I had not heard before, and it was like a fresh idea, you know. And I think people deserve to hear that. I really do. So I don't know. Again, I don't want to like sound like a broken record, but I agree with everything that you say. So no, I don't. But we also But that's the thing. We don't always agree. Like we just had a couple of discussions about small things. Why you see it this way, or why I see it that way. So it's not that we always agree about everything, but there's this thing that I definitely see the way you say it. I see what you're saying, and I agree. I think people, when they strip themselves away from everything possible that they can strip themselves away with, like the true essence of the person comes out, or the true essence of what they want to do in that moment comes out. So it's like almost a gift that you're giving to yourself in that moment. It's almost like, you're basically giving a gift to yourself, is like discovering what is the actually you actually want to do in that moment. Because again, it just boils down to the distractions, and it boils down to like whatever you're doing that is building like almost like an avalanche of just repeating the motion, just getting bigger and bigger and bigger to get more pleasure or dopamine or whatever you want to call it out of life. But like if you strip that away, if you melt that snow, you know, you probably are left with something that it's much more valuable. It's something much more true to you, and I think that's why this came to you. I think and that's why I asked if you had thought about like starting a podcast before that moment. It came out of.
And it gives you the space to do action, which is also fundamental too.
Yeah.
Which is people say, oh, well, I want to do this. I don't know if they really want to do it.
Right.
That's a separate question. And they're like, well, why can't you? Well, I got to do this and I got to do that. Well, when you embrace the boredom, or you say no to everything, you read The Power of No. That's a book too, right?
Yes.
There's many things.
Yes.
You know, it's like saying no to everything and saying, well, what do I want to say yes to?
Yeah, exactly.
I say no to all the distractions, all the things I was supposed to do, and not do anything.
Right.
You find what you want to do, and then you can say yes to that.
Right.
And then, ideally, you live the life you want. Ta-da! Close the show. Way to end the podcast. Bye, guys. See you next week. And maybe it is a good way to start closing things out.
Yes.
So, normally a couple of things I like going through the end, which is like, what have you been reading? Or, what's the last read?
Man, honestly, like the things that I read the most now, and it's been since the last 2 years, is like scientific reviews about about football.
Perfect.
About like hamstring injuries, for example. I read a lot about that. As I said, I want to prepare myself maximum possible for the players and give them the latest data as possible. So whenever we do something together in the gym or wherever, like we do exercises, and they have any questions of why we're doing this that way or that way, you know, I have an answer for that. So mostly now it's just reading scientific reviews, honestly.
Okay, amazing. That's awesome. Specific knowledge that you need.
Yeah.
It's important.
Yeah, I think so.
Since you brought all these books for me, I just wanted you to share it with the audience because they're literally on the table.
Yeah.
You brought them for me. They're all about soccer. But
yeah. So, no, I brought you some books from, specifically actually, some books that have a lot to do with the portion of the game that is related to analysis, game analysis. So I have the football code here.
Lift it up a little bit higher.
Yeah.
Okay.
the expected goals philosophy,
Yeah.
right? And
Soccer.
Soccermatics,
Yeah.
yes. And this was in your reading list, and I didn't even know about it, which is great. So
yeah.
No,
Like the color too. Red. I love that.
yeah.
Perfect.
No, this speaks about a lot about, for example, XP, which is expected goals.
Yeah.
It goes into depth about analysis and quantitative and qualitative analysis, but mostly quantitative analysis. What I mean by that is analysis that deals more with data rather than like analysis that is like a video analysis of like
performance.
A specific, exactly,
Okay.
like movement of a player or like the way the player dribbles or whatever. That goes into more qualitative analysis, right?
Yes.
So I don't know. Since I've met you, I've always had this idea of you that you're very analytical as a person, and you are. I mean, you always are. So, and we've spoke about this off camera. Like, I think everyone in football, if they want to stay in it, only if they want to build a career in it, I think they have to grab a niche, and I think they have to like get better in one thing specifically, get so good at it, and then build the rest of the football coach they want to be at the end, right? So this was just again, I've been thinking this way about you, and I think you'd enjoy them. So this is just my gift to you, and there's nothing much to say about it, but I think I've read them.
That's perfect.
Yeah, these are. I think they're going to be a good read. Yeah,
Thank you very much.
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah, and I'm also glad you mentioned that part about the specifics, because like that was something we were supposed to talk about, but we've been here for 2 hours and we keep talking. What have I been reading? East of Eden. I don't even know why I'm showing the books, but since you're on the table here, this is in Portuguese, but it's for hypnosis.
Yeah, that was
interesting.
That was very interesting. I saw it and I was like, whoa.
It's a bit. People are a bit shocked. I think people are always like, "Oh, this is sketchy." You know,
yeah, definitely not sketchy.
It's not. You know, it exists. And of course, like
of
the
course.
most important book.
Yes,
ever.
that is definitely the most important book ever, by the way.
But yeah. So then, as a follow up, I was curious. What's your philosophy for life?
My philosophy for life, I guess it ties back to the thing that we just were arguing about. Not arguing, but like, you're saying your point and me saying my point. I think my philosophy really for life is being prepared for anything possible that can happen. Like I like to be prepared. I like to not panic when things do not go according to plan. And I like to do that as much as possible. And it's just it puts me in a struggle of like being controlling in life, because sometimes you also like it's really hard being over controlling and about yourself specifically, because you kind of like are tense the whole time, and the whole point about going through life, you have to like be able to just like be I don't know, easygoing enough so you can actually flow. Because if you're tense, you cannot be in a state of flow. And it's very important to like be in a state of flow in life. Be acceptive to change and be ready to change direction. And it's very hard to be flexible when you're tense and when you're all trying to control every angle of your life. So that's the struggle. That's the struggle that it comes with like preparing things and maybe over preparing, but also like I guess the most important thing is like not panicking. This is what I like. Not panicking when others tend to panic about any kind of situation. And I guess this is also what is coaching as well, because you have to do that in the sideline normally when like 50,000 people are just screaming and you don't even have a way to get like calmly talk to your players. You have to do that on your toes. So yeah, that's my philosophy of life, at least so far.
Thank you for sharing that.
Thank you.
All right, now we're going to go into the question that the last guest asked. Which is, what is an everyday action you can do that will impact the world, even if it's the smallest thing you can do?
Perfect. Smallest thing. I always think of myself as the smallest thing, but not in a bad way. Not in like I'm so small and I'm like irrelevant or anything like that. But I think it's very important to keep in mind that we are tiny. We're just a particle of this world, and that doesn't mean we're irrelevant. But we're just to keep us humble. We're a very tiny piece of this world, and if we're to cease to exist, then the world is still going to go on, and everything is fine. And I'm fine with that idea. So I guess the something to to make an impact on the world is working on myself, and that's the only thing, and that's the only person that I have full, I guess, capacity to work on and to make a good change or a good amount of change that it can actually impact the whole world, because I'm in a position, thankfully, that I'm interacting with people, and I'm interacting with like not just one or two, but like interacting with many people who are going in and interacting with other people. So remembering that I'm part of that whole cycle, and taking care of myself as much as possible, so whenever I go in and interact with others and impact others, they can also impact the rest of the people in a good way.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it all boils down back to yourself. That's
perfect.
Yeah.
And what would be a question that you would like to leave for the next guest?
If failure is not an option, how big would you dream?
Nice.
Yeah.
Do you want them to give maybe a conclusive answer to that?
Yeah, they could. I guess they
what
could go.
would that dream be?
Yeah, exactly.
As an addition. I'm
Yeah,
not changing
yes.
your question.
No, exactly. That's exactly what I was thinking, by the way. Yes. They can give that. They can verbalize that dream.
Okay.
Or even that thought, you know.
All right. Well, thank you very much for this conversation.
Thank you
for coming on.
It was a pleasure. It was a pleasure being here with you, and thank you for hosting me these days, and I really appreciate it. It's always good having a conversation with you.
Yeah, really appreciate it. And I'm sure we'll have more talkie after this even, so excited for that.
Awesome.
Thank you very much.
All right. Take care. Bye-bye.